Yes, so today we are reacting to chapter 13 of Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. Flamel. I am totally sure I butchered that. I am so sorry for it. Anyway, before we jump into episode 13 of Philosopher's Stone and of Gryffindor, I just want to say that this video is also by Gabby Energy, and if you want 10% off your order of the Save Your Soul powers today, use my code DJRevolution and hit the link in the description down below to place your order. And then in the promo code section, use my code DJRevolution. That's DJRevolution in all caps. And you get 10% off your order of the Social Powers today. So with that out of the way, let's jump right into the episode, shall we?
Welcome, dear listeners. I'm Jonathan Carlin.
And I'm Benjamin Carlin.
And we invite you to join us through the Griffin door, your one-way ticket to the enchanting world of Harry Potter. So grab your wands and dust off your broomsticks and join us as we unlock the secrets behind Philosopher's Stone, Chapter 12, Nicholas Flamel.
Oh man, we have finally made it to Flamel.
To Flamel!
Of course, it's been a mystery.
Of course, I knew a person that name. Let's go to back at this after 2 weeks, I guess. But yeah, I'm so sorry. I realized I totally butchered the title. But anyway, with that apology away, let's continue with this.
For our little golden trio for just one hot second.
It has been a little bit of a mystery. They've been looking for it. This is one of those things where it's like there's a line in this chapter where Harry is saying like he knew he'd read the name before somewhere, and it's like
Yeah,
I remember as a kid having
ago.
no recollection at all that he had read the name on the chocolate frog card earlier in the story. But like I'm so curious because I'll just never know. Like if you're an adult reading this, is it like super obvious? So you're like, oh yeah, it was on the chocolate frog card, or it's like, yes, clearly this book was not that long, and if Harry thinks he's read it, you the reader have definitely read it because it's not like it wasn't even books ago. This is book one. So
that's the thing is that like yeah, I think that this chapter is a really good representation of the evolution of my own like consumption of media, because this is you know one of those moments where it's like if you're paying sharp and close attention to specific details.
Yeah.
And I mean, to be fair, I mean the Nicholas Flamel line on the back of the chocolate frog card is it.
Yeah, like when I read this book with my dad, it's not what I remembered the name from like when Harry got Dumbledore's chocolate frog card. By the time that my dad got the chapter 13, there's no way I remember that name.
Is a nearly throwaway line.
It is a nearly throwaway line. The thing is,
throwaway
even if
line.
you remembered, like when Hagrid like says Nicholas Flamel, if you were like, oh, that's who Dumbledore knew, it's like even if you went back and found it, it doesn't necessarily help you because all you then learn is that it was Dumbledore's partner in alchemy, and if you don't know anything about alchemy, that's still not going to get you very far. And if you're like an 11-year-old like reader of the book, chances are you don't know about alchemy,
Right.
even though all alchemy means is Sorcerer's Stone, which is the title of the book.
Yes, precisely. So if you've dug deep into like any history, like I imagine there are like some college professors who are reading the books to their kids and they're like, oh, Nicholas Flamel, that's interesting, because like one of the fun facts about Flamel is that he is in fact a real person,
Right?
Like I think his wife they actually call by name in this chapter when they finally
Paranel,
yes.
Yeah, that's definitely like the name rhyme, his wife and his son. But like he technically did not find, but he may have found the recipe, but he's dead, so he wasn't able to collect the stone.
That is actually the real Nicholas Flamel in the real world's wife.
There you go.
That is her name. So that is actually an actual piece of information that is true. And those two real living people did live their life in pursuit of the Philosopher's Stone.
Right. They did not make it, but then post-mortem, they were like, some other company would like attributed them as having successfully done it, and they knew the recipe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Apparently. But
Yeah.
also,
Obviously, they don't.
right. Because they're not here still with us.
Yeah.
There is that.
Yeah,
But anyway, yeah. So no,
exactly.
I think this is kind of cool. And as I've gotten a lot older, you know, whenever I'm watching like a new series on Netflix, or like if there's like a detail or like a character they're giving just like a little bit extra, you know, like attention to,
Yeah.
it's definitely one of those things where you're like, okay, that's someone to watch.
This is like so this is something I've started to try and tune into on like reality shows.
Oh, right.
Because
Yes,
like
yes.
screen time is like the gold metric of like who's doing better in the show.
Right.
And
Yeah,
like so like I'm watching Survivor this season, and it's like I'm starting to try to trying to guess like who's gonna win. It's like the people editing it know who wins, and they want you to like who wins, and they
Right.
want it to be compelling, so they're gonna put whoever wins probably on camera the most, because like if you didn't get to know them, then it's a boring win.
This would be like an interesting
that's
stat
fair.
to have somebody go through like
I
each season of
just
Survivor,
wanna go
total
into
how much
that's
screen
fair.
time each person gets, and see how well it correlates with the winners.
Oh, I know. And there is an Instagrammer, I think it's just called Bachelor Data, who does this exact thing for like all the Bachelor spin-off shows.
Oh,
and it's just like
interesting.
this contestant got the most screen time, and look at that. Like whoever got the most screen time in episode 1 either got the most screen time because they were going home like that week, or because they're like in the final 4.
Yes,
and it's
yes,
like
yes,
they set you up immediately for it. So
Right.
yeah, I'm not sure exactly how do we get on here. Small details.
Small details, yeah. Paying attention to the little things, and and again, I mean, this is the type of thing where I've always said, like with the Potter saga, it would have been so much fun for us as theorists to have been doing what we do now
Yes, I know.
when the books were coming out. But then even if let's say it's 100 years in the future, people have set books down for so long that like there's not just like resting canon inside of people's heads, and they were to make in the year 21, 23, if they were to make like the Harry Potter TV show, and people are like, oh yeah, it's this like old book series that was super popular.
Right, yeah,
right?
wouldn't that be crazy? Like it's just completely like fallen off the map.
Yes. But then it would be amazing if they did like a chapter by chapter breakdown in episode per, and at that point in time, like there was like reference to Nicholas Flamel in like one of the earlier episodes, and deep divers could go back, because that's the other thing too, is that like how much theorizing do you do inside of the same book?
Right.
Like how often are you putting the book down to just sit there and contemplate?
Like, you're not going chapter by chapter, and you just read the whole book like an afternoon, which you could do with Philosopher's Stone. You're not really spending time thinking about what is happening, what you're really thinking about who Pharrell is. Because you just go chapter by chapter until the freaking book is done.
Like, wait a second. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm putting the pieces together. It's interesting that Quirrell happens to be in each of these scenes. Like,
Right,
if
like
were-
could you pick up on that Quirrell's the bad guy?
Right.
Yeah,
It's like we're
that
not seeing
would
McGonagall in each one of
probably
these scenes. It's
do
always
that,
Snape and
though.
Quirrell every time.
Yeah.
And it seems like every single time, Quirrell always seems so inferior and scared and all the rest. So it's like especially for an 11-year-old, but for anybody reading the book, I mean, you're just. It's a great decoy. You're just not paying that much attention.
It's a great decoy, and then on top of that, the entire Nicholas Flamel mystery is just a decoy.
True,
like
also true,
like
yes.
it's not like they're hunting on that because they want to know what Fluffy's guarding. But like you, the reader, could probably figure out again from the title that it's the Sorcerer's Stone, and it's like, but you're so invested in like who's Nicholas Flamel? Like you're more focused on that than you are like. Is Quirrell the bad guy? Because it's like
Yeah.
there's no doubt in your mind that it's Snape. He's just mean all the time. And I will say this chapter in particular, I think it abuses a little bit of there's a scene towards the end of the chapter where Snape is talking to Quirrell,
yeah.
and the line of questioning I feel like is like unfair to the reader. It's like there's no reason, like when you know the whole story, Snape's line of questioning to Quirrell in the forest makes no sense.
I know, and I almost want to like just feel like you're marking that.
Yes,
because
we'll come
I
back
literally
to it.
it was the number one thing as I finished this chapter. I was like, I really want to talk to Jay because I think I find this to be written in such a way that is that may fall under critique more than other aspects. So we'll come back to it. We'll come back to it.
We
'cause
will.
I feel like that's a good tease for what's to come in today's episode.
All right. Well, we'll start getting into the page by page here in a second. But first, I did want to draw attention. I just want to give a huge shout out to all of our listeners, Ben, because we got people have been posting their Spotify Wrapped everywhere. Did you get yours, like your personal one?
I got my personal Spotify Wrapped, which I'm not like
all Taylor all the time.
A big Swiftie. But my number one song is like a heavy metal version of one of the songs from Moana.
That is amazing.
So it's like I love the heavy metal covers. How Far I'll Go.
That's so funny. Mine was Bluey.
Wow.
Yeah, just the Bluey album. In particular, I've seen a lot of other parents that it's like, was Bluey your top album this year? Because it was mine. And it's like, tell me you're a parent without telling me you're a parent kind of memes. And then but I'm a little proud of my kids because I've talked to other parents who were like in this category and you're like, we had like our top songs like Cat Squad or something. I'm like, oh wait, I don't know that one. It's like, oh yeah, you don't know Cat Squad? Cat Squad's like a song that's like played in the background by one of the annoying toys, but it's not like featured in the episode so much. It's just like every time it comes on, the dad is like, no.
It turns
So I
out
was
Cat
like,
Squad.
we got Cat Squad in ours, even though I will tell you it is equally annoying to real life parents. So there's that.
Okay.
But anyway, if you are, most people go to their Spotify Wraps, and it just tells you about your listening habits. But if you are on the other side, if you are the people making stuff that other people listen to, like podcasts like this one, you get your own Spotify Wrap for like how things did. So it was very, very fun to go through and look at the Spotify Wrapped. Just so some fun facts we got out of it is that this podcast through the Gryffindor was streamed in 97 different countries,
which is just unbelievable.
So crazy.
That's wild.
I know.
So thank you guys so much.
And this was what a really cool stat I thought is that the top country was predictably the United States, but that was only 42% of the global community.
I know. I was like, whoa. I don't think we've ever had one of our projects before be more popular internationally than here in the States.
Yeah, so while the largest amount
Americans, so that's why it's supposed to have them to have one of their projects be more popular out of the States than in the States.
Of concentrated people live in America, they would be outnumbered worldwide. Which is crazy to me.
Crazy,
so that's amazing. They gave us like our average rating for the year via Spotify, which was 5.0 out of 5.0. So bravo, thank you guys for all those amazing ratings and reviews. And then we even got one that said we charted for 5 weeks and peaked at number 1. And I was like, at number 1, what? Like on what specific chart? I don't know.
I know. I saw that same stat, and I was like, "Wait a second, what? Wait. Like we were never. I mean, we were never number. We were never number 1.
Were we? Were we number 1? I don't know, but that's what it said. I have the stat. I've shared it on Instagram today. This is one of those rare occasions where I was like, I'm gonna need some permission to brag for just 1 second. Just like, okay, this is pretty cool though, right? Like this is cool.
No, I know. It's just absolutely incredible. Yeah. So it's really neat to see that.
Yeah, so that was really cool. And then I was looking at some other just random more like Apple charts today. We were presently number 5 in America for entertainment news. So bravo to us. Okay. And we're presently in the same category, number 1 in Guyana. Guyana, they love us down there, man.
How about it?
I know.
How about it?
Bravo. So that was really fun. So those were just some of our fun Spotify Wrap stats. Thank you guys so much for listening. It was so fun to look at those, and I can't wait to continue doing it. And we'll jump in now more into Chapter 12, Nicholas Flamel. So the basic breakdown here is that Griffin Gryffindor versus Hufflepuff Quidditch match is looming, and if Gryffindor wins, they'll take the lead in the House Cup from Slytherin, something that hasn't happened in 6 years. And I wanted to come back to that particular fact in a second.
Okay.
Harry, Ron, and Hermione encourage Neville to stand up for himself, which sets up a big scene later on in the book.
Yes.
Hermione, they quickly finally solve who Nicholas Flamel is, what Fluffy's guarding. They discover Snape's going to referee the Quidditch match, and then after the match, for some unknown reason, Harry is left completely.
Yeah, like, why he wasn't known after the match, like, he should be celebrating with the team, but whatever. And, like, nothing would have happened to him anyways if Dumbledore on this match in person between tears.
Completely alone by himself and follows Snape into the woods where he overhears a suspicious conversation.
Yeah,
Which,
that's
so
weird.
this chapter, I feel like it's like a lot happens, but overall, I felt like it was something of a low point for the book. There's a lot of like, we got to take a couple leaps of faith here in a couple of directions.
Yeah, no, one of the things that I found to be particularly interesting is that, I always remember loving the Quidditch matches, and this particular Quidditch match is not even told from Harry's perspective.
No, it's not. Yeah, you're
know?
just like in the stands with like Ron and Hermione.
Right. This is totally like one of those like Mandela effect situations for me where I'm like, I don't remember it being this way.
Yeah.
Like, like I would have assumed that every single Quidditch match would be told from Harry's point of view. So just another one of those rare circumstances that really feels. Not that there's none of them. I mean, eventually we'll have like the Riddle household and Frank Bryce kind of going up there and exploring the lights on and stuff like that. Like, but of course Harry is still witnessing that whole scene unfold through his dreams. It's the beginning of Goblet of Fire, and then we have Spinner's End with Snape, Narcissa, and Bellatrix. Fast forwarding to Half-Blood Prince, where the Unbreakable Vow is made. But
and then even the planning of the Seven Potters meeting in Deathly Hallows.
The planning
of the Battle of the Seven Potters, which I guess the Death Eaters are planning to attack early.
Oh yes. You're right. You're exactly right. That's like, but then that's following Snape.
Yeah.
But this is a strange situation where it's still a very Harry centric situation. I mean, Harry is like physically and like from a narrative standpoint the center of attention inside of this match, and it's not mentioned from his point of view.
Yeah, it's rare that inside of a chapter the point of view switches away from Harry.
You have to wonder if this is at all done just simply.
Yeah, like, it's like it starts on his point of view, goes away from his point of view, and then back to it again. It is kind of weird and very odd, but that's what happens.
Because like how much inside of this first story, like can you just deliver two proper Quidditch matches, like complete top to bottom with what's going on, and this chaser did this, and this score happened here, and like even the fact that the like Harry ends up winning the match within 5 minutes, like kind of proving once and for all like, hey, I'm good at this for real. Almost feels a little bit like, this match needed to go quickly.
Yeah, I mean, it was very. It's a great situation. It's a great example of like the like Quidditch itself as an entity driving the plot forward, but the match itself not being that important.
Yes. Yep. Exactly. So anyway, so we start off the chapter here, and Harry basically coming on the heels of his adventures with the invisibility cloak and exploring the Mirror of Erised. He's basically decided after his interaction with Dumbledore to hang up the old cloak or fold it and put it in the bottom of his trunk.
Yep.
And sort of work his way there. He does start having the nightmares.
I know. I read that and I was like, I don't really remember that particular line. I was like, that's so sad that like he got to see his parents and it was like such a happy thing, and he went back and then he like stops going and now is having nightmares. Not because like he misses them, but because having seen them, the once dormant memory in his mind of them being murdered is becoming more and more clear.
Yes, like more of the details are finding their way back into.
It's kind of sad that he gets to see his parents for the first time, and then like immediately after he's just getting nightmares of it after being told not to go in the mirror and see them.
His memory, which
Yeah.
is just devastating to think about. So we're getting a little bit of that, with, some different reactions from Ron and Hermione, where I think Ron is just sort of like see, that's exactly what Dumbledore meant. It could make you go, it could drive you mad, and it's like, oh no.
Yeah, right?
You don't want to think that's what happened to poor Harry.
Yeah, there's a line here about Hermione says she was torn at the horror idea of Harry being out of bed, roaming the school 3 nights in a row, and disappointment that he had at least not found out who Nicholas Flamel was. So this is one of those things that I just finished reading the first book to my son Luke, so we've watched the movie.
Yes.
And it's like, this is one of those weird, like, book versus movie things where, like, in the movie Hermione comes up and tells, like, she's about to leave for Christmas break and she's like, we haven't found them in the library yet. She's like, well, we haven't looked in the restricted section. Happy holidays. And then, like, leaves. Like, she totally tells them to go do it.
Right.
Yeah.
This is Hermione, like, planting permission, being like, wink, wink.
Yeah. And I was like,
I don't want to be here to be like one of the, I don't want to be like, involved
Right.
in this particular portion of rule breaking, but as long as I'm not here.
You may as well go look.
Yeah.
This is before she even knows they have the invisibility cloak. So
Right.
I went back and looked, and like in the book, Harry just wanders past the restricted section and is like, I wonder. And so he has his own idea about it. So
Yeah.
Hermione's not involved at all. But
So then immediately following that, we learned that Wood is working the Quidditch team harder than ever, and there's a couple of paragraphs back to back that kind of stood out to me because they both reminded me a lot of Prisoner of Azkaban.
Yep, okay.
For very similar reasons, both of which kind of would tie back to.
Oh yeah. We have one book after this book, and then we're on to Prisoner of Azkaban. So just sit back and enjoy the rest of these chapters, guys, and then once we get done with Chamber, we'll be on to Prisoner, which is doing so much fun watching it now. Trust me, it will be.
In particular, but of course we just mentioned Harry's having these nightmares and stuff, but it said quite apart from wanting to win, Harry found that he had fewer nightmares when he was tired out after training.
yes.
This is interesting to me because when Harry is learning to cast his Patronus at some point in time, the first memory that he tries to use in order to like summon like the most positive thing to overcome the intensity of the presence of the Dementor is his first time ever flying a broom. And so to me, this is almost like one of those instances like where positive experiences almost sort of like are actually part of the recipe that help like fight off the darkness altogether.
Literally, even later in the chapter, Dumbledore will come up to him after the match and say, nice to see you haven't been brooding about that mirror. Been keeping busy. Excellent.
Yes. So it's almost like this is actually like a you can start to understand even like magically how positive memories could be fuel for creating something that is otherwise like concentration of positive force.
Yeah.
Because that memory, that thought is the essential ingredient in being able to cast the Patronus.
Right.
So I like that, and then it's immediately followed up with this scene where. Let's see here. Oh wait, maybe I was jumping ahead just a little bit. I may have got my pages wrong. It's the scene where Neville returns to the Gryffindor common room and he's run into Malfoy, who cast the leg lock or jinx on him.
Yep.
And basically, he's like everybody's kind of giving Neville advice inside of the moment, and Ron saying like you've got to stand up to him and stuff like that. But what Harry does is reach into his pocket and hand him a chocolate frog, which is kind of interesting because this again is a little bit of like a Lupin thing where it's like.
But why give him a chocolate frog when that does nothing to a curse, I think? Or even a jinx for once, I don't think. But it's an odd choice, but yeah, chocolate frogs are good, but I mean, it's a weird choice of something to give him.
It's just Harry having good instincts.
It's just good instincts about chocolate.
Yes, because like again, magically, it seems like chocolate quite literally has like healing properties that can like help you recover from magical malady, if you
Yeah.
will. And so it's just like the fact that like this is the specific thing that he does in the situation is like Harry's right on cue without knowing why he's doing it.
I mean, it is. Yeah, this chapter does have a bunch of things that like speak to a lot of the things Dumbledore like finds more important than like things that like Voldemort doesn't understand, like to his like downfall.
Yes.
Like the power of like candy and friendship and sports and love and stuff like that. Like all of these things are very present in this chapter, and they're all things Voldemort doesn't understand.
Yes.
That like Harry reaches for immediately, or it's like, oh, I'm having nightmares. Let's go focus on something like sports.
Right.
And it's like that is all stuff that like Voldemort can't get.
Right. Yes. Exactly.
Yeah.
It's what allows Voldemort to be Voldemort for worse.
Yes.
I was gonna say for better or for worse, but just for worse.
Okay, so I don't know if this counts as foreshadowing, but I just thought it was like a little funny thing.
Yeah.
So when they're practicing Quidditch, they find out that Snape is going to be refereeing, and Oliver tells the team, he said, that's exactly the sort of thing that's going to lose us the match. Snape's refereeing this time, and he'll be looking for any excuse to knock points off Gryffindor. And it says, George Weasley really did fall off his broom at these words, and I just thought that was funny because it's like later on in Deathly Hallows, Snape is the one who hits George from a broomstick with the Sectum Sempra curse and like take his ear off.
Oh my gosh, you're right. I didn't
That's
catch
like-
that at all.
Yeah, so it's like
So Snape is responsible for George Weasley almost being debroomed or just quite literally being debroomed.
Yeah. So the next time, Snape. The news that Snape is going to be refereeing causes George to almost fall off his broom, and then later in Deathly Hallows, when they're both on brooms together again, he actually takes George's ear off. So
Wow.
yeah, just totally random, but there you go.
Nope, that's a good one. That's a good
That
one.
was a fun one.
This is another one of those situations where like Snape's refereeing. I mean, to be fair, like you might call this particular circumstance unfair, just given the fact that Snape very clearly cares about winning the House Cup and the
Yes.
Quidditch Cup. But it's not exactly like Madame Hooch didn't allow 5 illegally scored goals like while she was looking the other way against Slytherin. So it's like,
Right.
you might literally think like, oh man, well Snape's not going to play fair, but it's like Madame Hooch wasn't exactly doing great either.
Yeah, one.
Like,
Not only does she like not stop the game, and Marcus Flint all of his goals count, but 3, like she was unable to do anything about the broom being cursed. You know,
right, yes.
like you did, like to the point where she doesn't even stop the game. So it's like she's just a very ineffective referee.
I know. The thing that blows my mind, though, is that we, of course, know, taking several steps backwards and looking at this like from the perspective of adults, it's sort of like, okay, the reason Snape's out there is just to make sure that Harry is okay. Like, this is almost certainly at Dumbledore's request,
Right.
that Snape be
Exactly.
out there.
Oh,
Although, I mean, the difference between him being out there on the broom versus just standing in the stands doing exactly the same thing seems
I know, sort of there.
minimal at best.
And
But
then like Dumbledore's presence at the match seems to like indicate to everyone like, okay, that's okay, everyone's safe anyway.
Right. Yes, if Dumbledore himself is just there, which it also always surprises me that Dumbledore just doesn't attend the matches.
I know, like why wasn't he at the first match? That is bonkers to me. That's another thing that like it's easy to miss because of the movies. Like in the movies, Dumbledore is there at the first match, which then makes you wonder like why didn't Dumbledore do something about it if Snape was doing something about it? It's like Dumbledore really should not be at the first match, but then he definitely should be because like at the end of the day, he's like the principal of the school. This is a big school event happening on the weekend. Like what else? This is his job.
Maybe the first go round, Jay. Maybe the first go round.
Yeah, like he is the principal of a school. He should be at a sporting event that involves the school. Like, said Mr. Sarson to me, principal for me, being at not being at a Rotary football game. Like, he should be there to support his school for one.
Just like hauling the mirror of Erised through the front door, and he's just like, goodness gracious, this thing is heavy.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
Just
he's up in school
dragging
setting that up.
the monstrous mirror into the door.
But no, we already know the. Well, I mean, perhaps at the time, but the mirror is already at the school, right? Like,
Yeah. I was trying to invent wildly there.
Yep.
But anyway, the thing I can't believe is that like Snape is quite literally on orders. What he is doing there is operating with the intention of not allowing Harry to be damaged, but also there's like still a little bit of like pettiness. There's enough pettiness in there where he's like, I'm here to protect the kid, but like I'm not gonna let him win the game if I can.
I know,
help
like
it.
we're still gonna like favor Hufflepuff, okay? Like
my brain,
come on.
my brain would not work this way.
Oh
like,
my god, it's
just,
so
like,
hard to comprehend because like there is like
Yeah,
this
my
funny
brain
like
would
once
not
the
work
game
this way either.
starts, there is like a moment where it's like, oh, like immediately Snape awards Hufflepuff a penalty, but it says because George Weasley had hit a bludge rat, and I was like, that's actually fair. You know, you can't attack the ref. That's true of any sport. Like, if anything, you're lucky you didn't get thrown out of the game.
That's
honestly,
exactly,
like that's pretty lenient on Snape's part. But then, like 2 seconds later, it said Snape awarded Hufflepuff another penalty for no reason at all, and it's like, well, like why are you doing that? Like before that, you had good reason. Like there's no reason to just favor Hufflepuff like that. I don't. Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, no, not entirely. Yeah, no, I don't know if it totally tracks. There is one scene real quick here that I wanted to touch on before we get to the game itself,
For sure.
Which is that Harry leaves Quidditch practice and he's going back up to the Gryffindor common room where he finds Ron and Hermione playing chess, and I feel like it's just like a good Ron moment.
Yes.
This is like one of those things where, like basically Harry approaches, and if you can imagine, like Ron and Hermione are sitting there in like a heated battle of chess, and Ron says, "Don't talk to me for a moment," as Harry goes to sit down like next to him, and inside of this situation, he's halfway through saying, "I need to concentrate," when he cuts off because he catches sight of Harry's face and goes, "What's the matter with you? You look terrible." Like this is one of those things where I do feel like people, it's like this is Ron being a really good friend. Like he's very like he's focused on what he's doing, but then he's so dialed into Harry that it immediately takes priority.
Right, exactly.
Which I think is this is like a good Ron friend moment. Which Ron doesn't always have. I mean,
he doesn't. He's
like Ron doesn't always have good fun moments, but this would be one of them. In one of the ones in like the first book too. So that's happening with year one.
He has a lot of very, very good ones in the first book for sure.
Yes.
I also just like that
exactly.
it does mention that chess was the only thing Hermione ever lost at. Something Harry and Ron thought was very good for her. Like I in the first book, it feels like they're really set up for like Harry to be the one who is like in the moment, good in the heat of battle, good instincts. Hermione with like this wide background knowledge of all the magic they might need, but maybe is not so good in the moment.
Yeah.
And Ron with like this like, I can come up with the strategy to employ, but then if things go crazy, Harry, you need to take over. And it's like that is abandoned pretty hard after the first book.
It is, yeah. It seems like there was some setup for Ron to be like the playing guy.
Yeah.
Like sort of like he might be able to like invent wildly, and Hermione be like, well, that will never work, and it's like, but will it?
But won't it?
And it's like it's just crazy
Won't
enough
it?
to work.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Of course, it won't matter because everything's going to go crazy as soon as the trouble starts. But
Yes, indeed.
Yep.
But yeah, so then of course there's the really great scene. I mean, overall, I mentioned a little bit already, but the scene with Neville kind of showing up, and Harry has a great moment as well, where Neville has basically just like really been bullied in the worst way. I mean, this is an instance where like the Malfoy has found Neville's weakness, and he is just needling it.
Malfoy, I never noticed it as much. Like, I guess Malfoy starts to like care less about Harry in the future books or whatever, but his obsession with the Gryffindor first years in this book is like, do you want them to like you, man? Are you like crushing on the first years here? Like, do you want them to be your friends? Because you are like going out of your way to be around them, even if you're being mean.
Yes. No, I know. I mean, it does. It holds some of that classic behavior where it's like the person you pick on is the person you actually really like.
Right.
Is what it feels like could be happening a little bit there. But so Neville says there's no need to tell me I'm not brave enough to be in Gryffindor. Malfoy's already done that. So I just wrote next to that, just mean and sad.
So mean.
But that being said, there's like a little bit of foreshadowing here because we know that coming up in like the next chapter or so is going to be let's see, it's Neville, Hermione, Harry, and Malfoy go into the Forbidden Forest, where we discover that Draco himself is rather terrified of the dark and the danger and everything. So a little bit of that going on, and then of course, I mean, that being said, like Malfoy just ends up being completely wrong, and in the end, Neville is sort of like the paramount representation of House Gryffindor.
Oh, of course, yes.
So he's just completely and utterly wrong.
Yeah, of
Not to
course.
mention
Like,
standing
he
up
ends
to
up
the bullies will
asking
end up being
everybody
standing up to
in his
his friends, which
Yes.
is arguably even harder.
I
to
know
do.
they'll like set this up, for later right there. Then there's this when they find who Nicholas Flamel is, there's this trick where Hermione says, "Stay there," and she said she sprinted up to the girls' dormitories. This is just like the first example of Hermione doing this stunt a lot, where she will like realize something and then
Yeah, so we're doing this a bunch. Like, she did this here and she doesn't in chamber. Probably just in another book Don't know which books, but yeah, it's definitely this one and the next one. Oh, here comes my dog. Whoops, yeah. So nice.
Which is
Yes.
arguably even harder.
I
to
know
do.
they'll like set this up, for later right there. Then there's this when they find who Nicholas Flamel is, there's this trick where Hermione says, "Stay there," and she said she sprinted up to the girls' dormitories. This is just like the first example of Hermione doing this stunt a lot, where she will like realize something and then run away without telling anyone what it was. And it's like they do eventually draw attention to it, but I thought that was just like worth noting that this is like the first time it happens.
Well, yeah. So for more Hermione runoff moments to come. Yep, absolutely, absolutely.
Oh, and then she says, "I never thought to look in here," as she pulls out the book that actually has the information about Flamel in it. And it's like, it doesn't say what book it is. I want to know, like, they looked at so many. What book finally had it?
I know, yeah, that's true. That's true. And we do get the like little bit of light reading joke though that you carry over to the movies. This is light.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see here.
Yeah,
Is this the first mention we actually get of the word Sorcerer's Stone?
I think it is, yes. Other than the title, this is the first time we learn the word the Sorcerer's Stone.
Yes,
And
Nicholas-
what it does.
Yeah, so it's Hermione who says it. Nicholas Flamel, she whispered dramatically, is the only known maker of the Sorcerer's Stone. So I highlighted it and said, hey, that's the title of the book.
Hey, that's the name of the movie.
They did the thing where they said the thing. Yeah, so then next page over, we get to learn a little bit about Nicholas Flamel himself and what the Sorcerer's Stone is capable of doing, which is, of course, turning metals into gold and the otherwise elixir of life.
I love that it says that it belongs to Mr. Nicholas Flamel, the noted alchemist and opera lover, as if his like love of opera is equal to his achievement in creating the Sorcerer's Stone. Like,
like he
he's
must be-
just as well known for loving opera.
Like, yeah,
Yes.
yeah, like, I mean, it must be a remarkable passion for
Right?
opera
I
in
know.
order to merit such proximity there. The other thing that
I always have a question about like wizard books, like whether or not like when Hermione's reading this is like, does that number change every year?
Oh,
You know, like, is it
Good.
possible that he's older than 665,
it does,
or is it like
seem-
magically enchanted to like update itself?
Man, what a good question. I like to think that it's magically enchanted. To
I
update
think so
itself.
too, yeah.
I definitely think that seems like a worthwhile bit. Either way, that's all such good trivia because that's like one of those things. It's like, how old was Nicholas Flamel? And you're like, gosh, 600 and something, you know.
Yeah.
And it's like it's one of those where it's like if you can use any number as a helpful hint inside of the 600 to 700 range,
Yeah.
and can find that 666 thing and then like work one
Right.
backwards. It's like there is a way to learn it.
Right.
This is exactly like my how many staircases are there in Hogwarts Castle? It's like 1, 4, 3. That means I love you. Like,
Oh,
you
right,
know,
yeah,
whatever.
there you go.
Go back one. Yeah.
Go back one.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway,
Yeah. So do you think that's like intentional, that it's like he just misses out on 666?
it's a good question.
Right. Because like that's sort of like what Voldemort's like after, you know, or
Yes.
right.
Yes, I think that's intentional.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It can't be a mistake.
Yeah, I think it's like that he just misses out on like the evil number or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
The only other thing I could think is just it's a happy accident from the actual real Nicholas Flamel's, like when he was born. until 1990.
Oh, that could be it too.
Yeah, so there's some possibility where it's
that's
sort
worth
of like,
fact checking, I suppose.
That would be worth looking into.
Yep.
Let's see here. The other thing is that then immediately after that, Harry says, "A stone that makes gold and stops you from ever dying? No wonder Snape's after it. Anyone would want it." This is one of those. I think this is an illusion inside of lots of. Like, take any, modern Marvel superhero movie, any movie that features, like, a super, like, villain, kind of, your Voldemort, Thanos, whatever, who want to, like, take over, is, like, immortality sounds exhausting.
Yeah, like, it sounds like the most tiring thing ever. I mean, you live forever, but then you see everyone you love and, die around you. So this sounds very tiring as well.
Yeah.
Like, it's like one of those things where it's like, I understand, like, the underlying appeal and the generally shared fear of death. Like, is something that, like, it's easy to understand on like a very, very, very simple level. But it's also to, like, I mean, to imagine, like, a world where it's like, okay, well, I just need to continue to, like, I mean, and maybe I'm thinking about it way too literally. And if you had the Sorcerer's Stone, you could make gold. You could just go live and follow your passions for all the time and always.
Sure.
Because that would certainly then just be plenty attainable. But I don't know. Sometimes I'm like, gosh, this. I think immortality is overrated, and I also think that this idea of being the supreme ruler, like sitting on top of the Iron Throne.
Oh, so much work.
It's so much
responsibility.
Like the basic guarantee of being a world leader is that 50% of people don't like you.
Yeah,
and
right.
It's just
right.
like, it's like, why do you want that? Like,
I know.
Yeah, but like somewhere along the way, I feel like it's carried over from like this idea of kings and queens and the ability to like live in this giant glamorous lifestyle and stuff like that.
Right.
I'm like, I think it's more stressful than it's worth, in my personal opinion.
Right. Yeah.
It's just a take there. So just
Yeah, like, here's one. So King Charles and his royal family. It must be so tiring being them. This is more work than you think it is. Really.
just a small aside on the consistent inclusion of this idea of either achieving immortality or otherwise just seizing power.
Right.
There's like both of those sound rough.
Right. And it's also like, I guess, as of the movie Crimes of Grindelwald, we sort of get the answer to the question of whether or not the elixir of life just keeps you alive or like also like maintains your youth, and it mostly just keeps you alive. Yeah, like you're not like Nicholas Flamel is not like a 25-year-old dude who's 600.
See, and I actually felt like this was a giant missed opportunity in Crimes of Grindelwald, because what we meet him, he is ancient, and like Jacob Kowalski like shakes his hand, which like seemingly fractures it on contact, which essentially is like, what kind of quality of life is this person living over here? Like that seems so miserable. And at some point in time you see Nicholas basically having to look at the book, the communicator book thing. That's like the earliest version of the Order of the Phoenix, maybe. And it's like he's basically being like called into action. He's like, I haven't seen action for however many 100 years or something like that. And then of course he does ultimately show up at the monastery at the end of the film. And it's one of those things where I was like, this to me, because they even give us a money shot in the movie of the Philosopher's Stone. I'm like, this to me feels like a missed opportunity to not have him show up all youthful and spry and young, and like what you see is like, I use the Philosopher's Stone to achieve this level of health when needed.
Right.
But like when he shows up, he's still just as ancient as
just
ever.
Old guy. Yeah.
And I was like, oh man, like I feel like they could have younged him down from how we had just met him to be like, oh wow, that's a pretty powerful piece of magic. Like okay, like when he like he lives as himself, and that's being true to yourself. Like he's not lying to himself about his own age.
Yeah.
So you live in your everyday life and be true to yourself. That makes sense to me. But then when the moment is needed, you can seize the youthfulness from the stone.
From the stone.
So
but
anyway, they didn't go that particular direction. Nobody asked me. So
nobody asked you, Ben.
That's just my 2 cents, and a huge departure from our chapter.
Yeah.
Here. So,
Speaking
anyway.
of things nobody's done, there's a line here that says Slytherin. The idea of overtaking Slytherin in the House Championship was wonderful. No one had done it for 7 years, which, like, the way that is written makes it sound like not only has Slytherin won the House Cup for the last 6 years, but no one has literally even taken the lead from them.
I know
in that time.
And what is remarkable to me about this is that during that period of time, Charlie Weasley was like apparently like the player of the year.
Player of the year, not good enough to take the house lead.
Never at no point in time.
Even at this point, Slytherin has lost to Gryffindor, and they've still not lost the house lead. Like, what is going? I mean, this is one of those things. So like to me, either there is like cheating going on with like the points or whatever, and it's like sort of. I mean, but it doesn't look like it. You know, that Snape is just like, you know, boosting his numbers all the time.
Right, especially because I think like, and everybody kind of makes the joke. It's sort of like, you know, like Dumbledore gets to the end of each year and he's like, all right, how many points do I need for Harry to win? Okay,
yeah.
Carry the 3, you know, like whatever. It's like when Harry is there, Dumbledore is biased. He's biased towards Harry.
No doubt.
Everything has to do with Harry. He hires lots.
Yeah, Dumbledore is as biased as you if any teacher principal ever be when it comes to when Harry is around.
Cart to teach Harry about like the dangers of fame. You know, like he's got every single thing from the moment Harry steps into the school is all about Harry because
exactly.
There is a prophecy in play, because there is a Dark Lord attempting to return, because the fate of the wizarding world depends on it. So sacrificing certain things in the name of Harry having all the tools he needs inside of Harry's time there, absolutely something that Dumbledore is doing. I wouldn't argue with it ever.
Right, you'd say it's for the greater good.
I would say it's for the greater good. Yeah, absolutely. I would say that.
Yeah.
But then I would say anytime before that, though, I don't see any reason in the world why Dumbledore would be biased towards any houses whatsoever. I think that Dumbledore has enough righteousness in him to not do that.
Yeah.
And I suspect that he would also not allow Snape to unwittingly, like, you know, just keep going and giving Slytherins more points to the point where it's like,
unfair.
It's like Sev. Nobody can win the House Cup if you keep doing this. Like I don't think he would permit it. So it's like it must be the case that Slytherins by their own merits are winning.
Yeah, this is why the end of this book, when Dumbledore gives the House Cup to Gryffindor, like obviously Harry and Ron and Hermione do great things and they earn a lot of points, and that's great. Clearly, Dumbledore is just pulling the rug out from under the Slytherins at the same time.
Yes.
And it's like I feel like it would feel better if the Slytherins had like done something bad too. Like it felt like they didn't deserve the lead, and it's like Malfoy is a jerk, and he bullies some people here and there. But in general, Malfoy is not like super responsible for Slytherin's success in the House Cup.
Right.
Like there's every other student in Slytherin has like not just won but dominated the other houses like at just schoolwork, which is how most of the points are given out.
Right.
And it's like it really stinks. If you're just a 7th year Slytherin student this year, it's like, are you kidding me, man?
I almost clean sheeted this.
Come on, that is now. I will say there is the other possible explanation for Slytherin's reign during this time period is possibly the same explanation for the like low class sizes, where like sometimes it seems like Hogwarts must be or it feels like Hogwarts is massive, but then you're like, well, there's only like 10 students per house per year, per house per year.
Right.
So 40 students, so like roughly 280 students, which doesn't seem like that big of an entire school all of a sudden.
No, it's smaller than our high school.
Smaller than our high school. And I mean, you'd expect the wizard population to be a lot lower, but maybe not like less than 300 kids in the whole school for a whole country.
Right.
Like, is it that low? And the explanation sometimes given is that this particular class of students is coming out of it's like 10 years after wartime. So it's possible the population of parents making kids who would grow up to be wizards is just lower.
Yeah.
So in particular, though, because of Voldemort's specific nature and who was on his side, it hit the Slytherin collective of families would probably have been less affected in that way, such that they might have had more students or more.
Yeah, right. Baltimore did more bias towards its own house versus the other four in this type of way.
Unaffected families who were raising like children who were less affected in that way.
Yes.
So that is a possible explanation.
It is indeed. And another one that I think is super possible is you've also got Horace Slughorn out there who is making great connections for all of his former Slytherin students and, you know, kind of like setting them up for paths for success. So it is entirely possible as well that there's like a certain kind of parent that, you know, they're like the possible, you know, doctors and lawyers or whatever of, of the wizarding world who are sending their kids, you know, with a little bit of an advantage, a little more privilege at stake, kind of stepping into, you know, their time at Hogwarts. So it's always possible.
It's possible. Not that Slughorn always played like house favorites.
That's also true.
You know, like he loved Lily Potter. Lily Evans, I guess.
Lily Evans. That's a good point.
Presumably, this is always a thing I wonder about the Slug Club, not to get too far off topic here, is like he loves Lily, and we know she was in the Slug Club, but like it's also, she's in the same year as James and Sirius, who were described as the best at everything they did. Like, certainly James and Sirius were in the Slug Club too, if not Lupin as well,
and
right?
Who knows? Maybe it was all the detentions. I mean,
that's true.
Which apparently they received hundreds of.
Hundreds.
Yeah. So anyway, maybe Slughorn was like, all right, you're talented, but you cannot stay out of trouble because I was gonna say he also overlooks Fred and George, but he's not there with Fred and George.
But he even when he's talking to Harry, he's like, he laments that he didn't have Sirius in Slytherin. He's like, oh, talented young wizard. Too bad he wasn't in Slytherin.
I'd have liked the set.
I'd have liked the set, and it's like, but you still could have had him in the Slug Club, right?
Yeah, easily.
Yeah,
easily.
Like if you thought he was that good, you still could have like quote unquote collected him.
You know what? If Regulus was in the Slug Club, there's no way Sirius would go.
Oh sure.
Even if he was invited,
I guess.
That's
no way. That's true. You're
Sirius
right.
Would be like, nope.
You know, you're right. If Regulus is in, Sirius is not going, and then James is not going out of solidarity. Right. And then clearly, you know, I doubt Peter would be invited, but I don't think Lupin would go either.
Right, yeah, I mean, yeah. Lupin would. And this is like one of those where it's like, you know, Slughorn is.
You know what? Maybe Lupin would go.
You think so?
Because here's why. Because I'm just comparing them to Harry, Ron, and Hermione. And Hermione goes. And Harry's frequently invited, but because Ron is not, he's like, I'm not going.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. Yep, you're absolutely right. Right. So maybe Lupin does still go if they're the counters of each other.
Right.
All right. Anyway, so we get a little bit extra foreshadowing now that we've gone completely off topic here. As the match grew nearer, we get a line that says Harry didn't know whether he was imagining it or not, but he seemed to keep running into Snape wherever he went. At times, he even wondered whether Snape was following him, and it's like, yes, he is.
Yep. Absolutely.
And then at the end of the paragraph, we also get Harry didn't see how he could, yet he sometimes had the horrible feeling that Snape could read minds, which he also can do.
And it's like, possibly is?
Yeah, possibly is.
This is the thing, though. Because he's clearly, what is bonkers to me is that, well, this line and the fact that we know that Snape actually can read minds, and this line suggests that that's an established, like, quality of his early on. Like, I think this is like a line that's supposed to age well. But the problem is that he is later in this chapter, like, talking to Quirrell, trying to get information out of him, and is, like, unsuccessful at doing so. Which, at the very least, to me, seems like Quirrell must be good at occlumency.
Or Voldemort.
But almost, if Quirrell isn't, then why isn't Snape just reading his mind? And he could easily just read his mind. And then Voldemort from the back of his head to anyone. So it's just weird and awkward at best.
Or Voldemort is good at it. Yeah, I mean, I guess Voldemort does teach other people to do occlumency, and we know that he's good at it. So
I think that there's a chance if they are inside of one another's own mind that Voldemort can actively be the one
practice, like repelling Snape's legitimacy.
Yes.
Okay. All right. I accept that.
That's my headcanon. So,
Okay.
Anyway, let's see here. Then we finally make it to the Quidditch match itself, where Ron and Hermione basically are like waving him goodbye, wondering whether they'd ever see him alive again.
I know. And
This is one of those things where I'm like, okay, that's an exaggeration, right? Like, you can't possibly have thought he was going into this match where death was on the line.
where death is on the line. There's also this line where Neville, who couldn't understand why they look so grim and worried, or why they brought their wands to the game. And I'm like, what do you mean? Why would they bring? Don't you bring your wands with you everywhere, all of the time, everywhere?
If I'm a wizard, it's always on me.
It is always on
on
me.
me. Yes.
Like, I mean, my phone is basically always on me, and wand way better than phone.
Yes, absolutely. I would trade my smartphone for a working wand any day of the week.
Any day.
Any day of the week.
Any day.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, then we've already mentioned it, but then Dumbledore does in fact come to watch the match, which is just something I highlighted. I was like, okay,
Yep, kind of talked like that. Talked about that a little bit earlier. Yeah, you'd think you'd always about there. Oh, we get the name of the spell for the leg locker curse, which is Locomotor Mortis, which I want to say just the loose translation is death to movement, which I think is a hilarious translation.
Yes,
that's basically what it does.
Yep. No, it's a good one. It's a good one. I mean, your legs in a lot of ways can be your primary, means for movement.
Yep.
And so to eliminate that makes sense.
Okay, and then we get to the next page, and we're in the match, and we shift the focus down to to Ron and Hermione in the stands. And who decided this baffled me when I was reading it, is that all of a sudden Draco sits behind them, and I'm like, why? Like, the stands are massive. Like, you have to be going out of your way to come just like bully these people.
No,
like, what are you doing?
I actually like how the movie does it, where there's like house stands, for each house, because I'm like, that makes sense to me. Like, I could see going and cheering on, with your fellow classmates,
right,
or whatever, from Gryffindor. The fact that they're all in the same stands together, it's like, what? Why? Why would they all be there?
Yeah. For that matter, this is a great example of just proof that the houses that are not playing do attend the matches.
Yeah.
Because you know what? Slytherin's not playing and Draco's there. But you know what Harry never does? Go to any other Quidditch game ever.
It's almost like he doesn't actually like the sport. Yeah. He's like, I like to play. I don't like to watch. I want to be in it,
You think he'd go to the Ravenclaw games, He's like, oh my God, I gotta see how Cho's doing. I just want to see who's going to win the match. Nothing else.
Yeah,
Jeez.
I would not mind just the casual throwaway line where you just get to go see like Harry. It's like, it's like you don't have to like give us all the details. Just be like, oh yeah, I was going to go to the Ravenclaw match this weekend. It's like, why?
Hey,
what are you doing that for, Harry?
Just see what's happening.
I'm
big deal.
I'm just interested. I'm just going to pick up some tips.
Yeah.
She
must already be there, right? Probably not. Maybe not on the team yet. But Cho's older, right?
Yeah.
So she's just second year Ravenclaw. Ravenclaw doesn't have a huge presence in this book.
Not so much. Let's see here.
Which in the movie bothers Luke to no end, because of the sorting ceremony in the movie, you get to see obviously like the main cast all get sorted into Gryffindor and Draco into Slytherin, and then you get Hannah Abbott sorted into Hufflepuff, but the sorting hat does not say Ravenclaw in the movie.
Man, this is so it's like literally so you don't get a Ravenclaw sorting and you don't see Harry cast a spell the entire.
It's so what?
It's like there's like certain very essential details. So if anybody ever does remake the series, which it sounds like possibly is going to happen, it's almost just like, can we just see more of that? Let's just show us some a little more.
Well,
magic.
I mean, to be fair, he also doesn't cast a spell in the book.
To be fair, he doesn't cast a spell in the book.
It is implied, because it talks about the exams and what they had to do, and clearly you would have to have used your wand to complete the exams. So it is implied off page that he used his wand to cast spells successfully, because he passes the exams.
Yeah.
But on page, when we're with him, he does not cast a spell.
Yes, indeed.
Which is just like, how? What?
How? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so anyway, as we move down, though, Harry, of course, wins the match in a record 5 minutes.
5 minutes.
Basically the fastest that anybody has ever been able to capture the snitch before. You get the line from Dumbledore where he basically congratulates Harry and is like, I'm glad to see that you haven't been, brooding about the mirror. But then you get a line that says, Snape spat bitterly on the ground. And it's just like, this is another one of those details where it's sort of like, why? Like, why would Snape spat bitterly on the ground? Like, what is it? Like, this is like one of those things where it feels like it's going too far out of the way to suggest that like Snape is so petty as to be upset that Harry fairly won a game.
I know. Like, it's like that's one of those, like, it feels like, unfair to the reader. It's like it gives him like a. Like I guess he did spit at the ground, and maybe he just is that petty. But this chapter is the big it's Snape, he's the bad guy chapter.
Yes, it definitely has got like flashing lights all around it.
Yeah,
and I want to get into that properly because we're really about to dig into the weeds of this chapter.
Yes, we are.
In my opinion, there's one line that I want to talk about in particular that stood out to me, but it's basically Harry's own sense of pride and what it means to him to have like won the second match, because you get the line that says he'd really done something to be proud of. Now no one could say he was just a famous name anymore, and this is just like one of those things where it's like, you know, Harry struggles with imposter syndrome for mostly
for quite
all
a
of
bit.
the story.
Yeah.
I would say he's only overcome it in the flaw in the plan, which is the final like key chapter of the whole series, sans the epilogue. But this is like a good brief moment where I think it's a highly relatable thing in life, you know, because I mean it's so remarkable how quickly you as any individual out there is willing to dismiss your own success as beginner's luck, or I was just on the right side of chance. Or, you know, like
it's like you know, it's not like someone else caught the snatch and he's on the winning team.
Right. Yes. So like this is like a prime example of it's like, yes, you did it not only once, but you've done it twice. You have now proven, like, you know, like that wasn't a fluke, that you are in fact good. So anyway, I think personally that's just something I've struggled with in my life before, where it's like anytime anything good has happened, I've always assumed that it was just like, well, it probably that was probably it though.
Ben, can I tell you something?
Yeah,
we are the #1 news entertainment podcast in Guyana.
That's true.
So, you know,
wear
wear that with pride.
I will.
We are, yes, for sure. If you're listening down there, shout out to you guys. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for doing that for us. So, though, anyway, as we trudge forward, though, basically Harry is sort of amidst all the celebration when all of a sudden he is just by himself. Taking his broom to the broom shed.
This is the most unbelievable part of the whole chapter.
Yeah.
But like, why is he alone doing that? Like, he should be doing that with the rest of the team. Yet he's alone doing that.
So what is happening here is that for the first time in the last 7 years, Slytherin has lost the lead in the House Cup, thanks to Harry Potter, the chosen one special boy, who defeated Voldemort and has now simultaneously knocked Slytherin off the podium with a Hogwarts record fast catch of the snitch. And suddenly he's alone in the locker room. Like, the Gryffindors win a lot of other Quidditch matches that have a lot more celebration following them than this, on way less like dramatic terms.
I know. Yeah.
Why is he by himself? It makes no sense.
Yeah, the rest of this chapter is probably the one that I would say. Yeah, I feel like the most like, I don't know about that. Like it's like, are you sure? But basically, yeah. So Harry he's walking down with his broomstick. He sees a shadowy figure leave the castle and work its way towards the Forbidden Forest. Recognizing that it was Snape prowling, Harry actually hops onto his Nimbus 2000 and takes off. This is one of those things where I'm like, this feels like grounds for expulsion. Like, I don't know why, but it's like the idea of using your broom to go in and like fly about the grounds.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, that seems so off limits.
It does feel a little off limits.
You know, it's like it almost feels like the type of thing. I mean, they're not allowed to do magic in the corridors,
I know.
let alone just go for a joyride on your flying broomstick around the grounds. But
let me tell you, if you've played Hogwarts Legacy, you can fly your broomstick wherever you want.
Okay. So it's just wide open territory.
Maybe.
But anyway, that one always stands out to me where I'm like nervous on his behalf. I'm like, Harry, someone's going to see you.
Especially. Not just someone's going to see you. You're there to spy on the professor that actively hates you.
Yes, of course. Yeah. But he does fly around. He's trying to listen in on the conversation that Snape is having. Harry does discover that the person that he is talking to is none other than Quirrell. He does land in the towering beech tree, which is interesting because there is a very famous beech tree next to the Black Lake that shows up. Right. And it's like they're always doing homework underneath it. It's like where James is tormenting Severus and the Prince's Tale, the flashback.
Yeah.
So this beech tree in particular is particularly like
it's
relevant, I think, overall to the story. Like we keep coming back to it in a way that I don't think as many times as I've read it, I've been able to truly find the significance behind this particular tree. But like it is like
It's just a notable tree.
It's a notable location.
Yeah.
It's a notable location.
Is there something about like beechwood wands or something?
I'm sure that there is. I know that oaks are considered the kings of the forest, and beech is considered the queen of the forest.
Oh, interesting.
Like as far as like tree lore.
Oh,
is
tree
concerned.
lore.
Yeah, not even inside the wizarding world.
Okay, I was
That's-
like, oh, this is we're outside now.
yeah, we're outside. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's just externally. So I mean, beech trees are rather magnificent looking trees.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, they can look really impressive. So it makes sense. It is the kind of tree that you could in fact land in. So there's that.
All right.
From there, though, we basically have the scene, and this is the one where it's like I would almost want to like dissect everything that Snape is saying, because you, the reader, are supposed to be seeing it without context. And the way that you're supposed to interpret this particular scene is it's almost like, because you don't know the position that Snape has, you are supposed to believe that like it's all coming across as incredibly incriminating. It's all suggesting that like Snape is clearly possibly working with Quirrell or attempting to get information from Quirrell about how to get past Fluffy and how to collect the Sorcerer's Stone.
Right.
But me knowing the whole situation, me knowing the twist of the book, still reads it and it still sounds really bad.
It doesn't. I mean,
Like-
it sounds really bad, and it's like it almost doesn't feel like it makes sense.
Yes, exactly. It's
Yeah.
like it's like like Quirrell is sort of like, I don't know why you'd want to meet out here of all places, Severus, and Severus, Snape is all like, I thought we'd want to keep this private. Students aren't supposed to know about the Sorcerer's Stone after all. And it's sort of like, so is Snape? The best example that I could come up with is that Snape is once again playing double agent here. That like Snape is attempting to convince Quirrell that he is on Quirrell's side, and they together are attempting to capture the Sorcerer's Stone.
Okay.
That is like the explanation that works best for me. But then
You're
because-
right, because like otherwise, like why, like Quirrell otherwise knows that Snape knows that he's trying to steal the stone.
Right. Yes. Exactly.
Right.
I mean, basically, like it's just point blank that like this, the way it reads is almost as saying that Snape. Yeah.
You're right. You're right. That almost has to be what it is that Snape is trying to tell Quirrell, like, you are going to help me steal it, but in telling me how you would do it, you will be revealing to me how far you, who I think is trying to steal it, have actually gotten.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
okay.
Because the line in particular that really stood out to me was just, we'll have another little chat soon when you have time to think things over and decide where your loyalties lie.
Right.
And it's like, if you're supposed to be reading this and Snape is supposed to be convincing Quirrell not to do it, then why would he say the phrase, have you found out how to get past the beast of Hagrid's yet?
Right.
It's like, I mean, like
He knows
I'm gonna have to turn you in. Have you found out how to get past Fluffy? Because if so, like that's too far. That's
Right.
too much information.
Like if you're Snape and you're asking Quirrell, like, do you know how to get past the stone? Like if you're, if your position is that you think Quirrell's trying to steal the stone, and Quirrell thinks you're on to him, like he's not going to tell you how much he knows.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So it's I don't know. It's a weird one.
It's as if Snape has like told Quirrell, like, you are going to figure out how to get past that dog so that we can steal it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It feels like that's more of what's going on. Which
Right.
maybe makes more sense in the scheme of even like Dumbledore's big plan, which is, this idea that Dumbledore is in fact pulling strings all along, because we know, again, when you go to the Prince's Tale, that by this point in time Dumbledore has already assigned Snape the duty of keeping an eye on Quirrell, which means that Dumbledore already knows that Quirrell is trying to do something uncouth.
Right.
That like he's behaving in a way that is otherwise mysterious or unknown or like unusual in some way, shape, or form. So if you buy into the idea that what Dumbledore is attempting to do is essentially like align everything so that Harry goes down after the stone at the right moment, then having Snape operate on his behalf as an ally to Quirrell helps keep Dumbledore informed in just how much progress Quirrell is making.
Sure. But like, do you think, I don't even know if Snape knows Voldemort is involved, right?
I suppose he. Yeah, I
I
suppose
mean,
he might.
Dumbledore just keep an eye
Yeah,
on
it's
Quirrell,
true.
will you?
Right,
It's like,
yeah.
like I think Dumbledore. That's the other thing. Is like, does Dumbledore know that Voldemort is involved? I think he must. Yeah.
I think he must because I mean,
Yeah.
yeah. We'll come back to it eventually. But there's the line from Harry that after he's gone down into the chamber at the bottom, you know, where Harry will eventually pretty much say like, I think Dumbledore thought I deserved a chance to try.
Yeah.
And to me, the way it reads is that Dumbledore knows in book 1, Dumbledore knows literally every single thing that is going on and sees Voldemort at this point in time as such a small threat.
Yeah.
That it's kind of like it's not that big of a deal. Like
Yeah,
even sending Harry, you know, as we'll see soon, into the Forbidden Forest for his detention, where we know Quirrell / Voldemort is going to drink unicorn blood. It's like you're absolutely sending him into what is otherwise the lion's den.
Right.
You know, it's like you're sending him into a dangerous situation where the dark entity known as Voldemort is currently
Right.
and could strike. It means to me that Dumbledore has enough confidence that this Voldemort never stood a chance.
Right.
Like he never could do it.
I guess he sort of already knows like that Quirrell can't touch him too, like a little bit.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, because it's not like he's down there, but later on he's like, "Do you know why he couldn't touch you?"
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe he thinks that's in play. Yeah, but so otherwise, yeah, like this. Snape is talking to Quirrell, and he says, "Yeah, you don't want me as your enemy. You know perfectly well what I mean." And then he has to ask. This part doesn't make sense to me. He says, "You're a little bit of hocus pocus. I'm waiting." Like Snape doesn't know what the other enchantments are.
Oh yeah, I know.
Like, and I'm like,
what is
don't
that
all the
line?
teachers know what the other things are? Like he's asking him, like, what did you do? Like, what did Dumbledore ask you to do? Like, how are you protecting the stone?
Right. So the owl hoots, which basically is why we don't get the full context of the sentence. It says, an owl hooted loudly and Harry nearly fell out of the tree. He steadied himself in time to hear Snape say, "You're a little bit of hocus pocus. I'm waiting." So it's like, what is the front half of that sentence?
I don't know. All I can imagine is that it's like, yeah, you're right. It's like as if Snape is coming to Quirrell as if Snape is trying to steal the stone, and he's trying to get Quirrell to tell him, like as part of his cover, he has to like pretend he doesn't know what Quirrell. Like if I'm trying to steal a stone, then I'll need to know how to get past what you did. So tell me, what's your bit of hocus pocus?
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. And I mean, at this point in time, it would come across to me as if Snape doesn't know the involvement of the other professors. Like that's how it kind of reads.
Yeah.
Like so, if Snape is a double agent inside of the situation, then basically what he's saying is like I'm trying to help you here, and unless you can let me know your little bit of hocus pocus, like what did you do? Like
Right.
that, you know, and if you're not willing to tell me, then you need to really determine where your allegiances lie.
Right.
Because where else would they lie?
Right.
With the school?
I know.
Like the safety of the stone?
I know. Like the allegiance, unless you're letting Quirrell know that you think he's trying to steal the stone, is your allegiance needs to be with me, Snape, or with the school.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if it's with the school, I'm your enemy.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly, yeah. So anyway, I think it's unnecessarily misleading. I think without this particular page, you the reader already think it's Snape.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
you've already been misled well enough. But this one feels like it goes a little bit too far, in my
Yeah.
personal opinion. So anyway, we can move on from there, where Harry does return to the Gryffindor common room, and Ron is shouting, "We won! You won! We won!"
Yes.
You get this line that says, "And I gave Malfoy a black eye, and Neville tried to take on Crabbe and Goyle single-handed. He's still out cold, but Madame Pomfrey says he'll be all right." Oh man.
The matters when face for one silver okay. This whole happened.
Talk about showing Slytherin. That I always love that line just because it's like Neville tried to take on Crabbe and Goyle single-handed. I mean, he lost, of course,
he
but
failed.
but he tried.
But he went for it, man.
Yeah, we're proud of him. No
No doubt.
Way to go, Neville. So there's a little bit of bravery coming through.
We get a little bit of a Marauders map action here too, where Fred and George stole, quote unquote, some cakes and stuff from the kitchens. Where it's like they later find out that Fred and George are not stealing anything; that they just basically show up and the house elves are like, "Here, you want food?"
Yes, they're very.
Oh, well, your hat's still awesome. Everybody thinks the others are awesome, even though they lost.
Yeah.
See you in the morning,
Someone.
Susan.
My mom just saying that to me. Baby,
Very willing to do so. So
Yeah.
that's like one of those party tricks that's a little bit less impressive when you know how easy it is otherwise.
Exactly.
Let's see here. So anything else major?
Nothing else major in the chapter. Basically, the trio just concludes that the stone is only safe as long as Quirrell's able to stand up to Snape. Oh no, we're all doomed.
Yeah.
Of course, at this point, they still don't even know Voldemort's involved. They're just like concerned about the safety of the stone.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it is a little bit interesting that nobody has theorized at this point in time that the most obvious threat to everybody is the one that would be, coming back.
Right, exactly. So it is interesting how the story is laid out, where like you're distracted by the mystery of who Nicholas Flamel is, and then by the idea that Snape is trying to steal the stone. And at no point, even though you've been introduced to the idea of Voldemort, like, are you concerned that he's even at play?
Right.
You know?
Yeah, it's much more just the mean school teacher who you're worried about. Which,
Right.
on some level, like this is like one of the things that I'm sure we'll talk about a lot with Umbridge. But like, when you get to book 5, the thing that makes Umbridge so despicable, to the point where I think a lot of people hate Umbridge more than they hate Voldemort himself, is it's a much more relatable villain.
Yeah.
And I think that this is also true once again for the exact same reasons. It's like, as an 11-year-old, the idea of like the power that teachers hold over you as a 3rd, 4th grade student, is rather substantial. And so the idea of having like that mean teacher who's got it out for you, like that's way more, it's easier to worry about and despise that character than it is some otherworldly dark lord that wants to seize all power and rain darkness on society. Like as an 11-year-old, you're not worried about those things.
Right. Yeah.
Like,
No.
It's harder to understand. But when he's a big bad that's just hiding, looming in the shadows or whatever, it's like when he shows up, you'll understand it when he gets there. Because
Right.
you know how to understand a big bad basically enough because he's just a classic villain. So.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Anyway, how about chapter art? What do you think?
Chapter art. So this one is interesting. So it is basically just Snape running into the forest. I think it's a little bit confusing because it doesn't really match the title of Nicholas Flamel that much, which
true.
I think is like...
Yeah, like, it doesn't look like smell. It looks like Snape, but, like, it doesn't match the title, so weird. Like, it should be like something to do with Snape as the title instead of smell, but I guess we got a title of smell and attach it up, it makes no sense at all.
Like, that's not Nicholas Flamel running into the woods right there. Although this one's it's fairly interesting because this particular chapter art was used as cover art as well for some U.S. publications of the Sorcerer's Stone.
Interesting.
Yeah, so this was like
It
the
was
cover art some people
for
had
US.
for, I think it was like, it wasn't the initial release because that's the classic one with Harry like on the broomstick trying to catch the snitch flying through the arches with the castle in the background and stuff that most people had. But this was a different one that I learned about when we were doing all the cover reviews of all the different Sorcerer's Stone ones, of which there's like over 100 different covers that have been printed for this book.
It's unbelievable.
But this was one of the U.S. ones. I think it was like the book fair edition. Like if you had the book fair come to your school, this is the cover you
buy that
got.
copy.
Yeah, so there's that. Otherwise, I don't necessarily love this one just because it doesn't match the title that much, and it's like it's not clear, I guess, whether it's Snape or Quirrell. It is Snape, I guess, running. That's who Harry eventually says he sees there. That doesn't look like a beech tree either, as far as I know.
Yeah, those are pine trees.
Those are
Yeah.
pine trees. Yeah.
There is a question. Maybe this would be a separate game instead of rating our chapter art. Almost sort of like, what would you rename the chapter to be?
Yeah.
Because there's a part of me, like I know that event in let's see, is it Half-Blood Prince? I think it is. There's a chapter called Draco's Detour. I know that this is absolutely just stealing from that one, in which case you might need to rename that particular chapter. But Snape's Detour feels like it could just as easily be the name of this particular.
It does.
chapter.
It does. Right. Like what?
Yeah, it's interesting to me. This would be like one of the ones that would totally get me on a quiz where it's like, what is the name of the chapter where Harry defeats Hufflepuff in record time? And it's like,
Right.
You would never think that a Quidditch game takes place in the chapter titled Nicholas Flamel.
I know. I would even maybe just call it the Sorcerer's Stone.
You could call it the
Because they
Sorcerer's
find
Stone.
out about it. And I
Yeah.
think most books have one of the chapters named after the title of the book.
Certainly Chamber of Secrets.
Yeah, Chamber of Secrets does. The Prisoner of Azkaban. Just Prisoner? Maybe not.
Goblet of Fire
Goblet
absolutely
of Fire
does.
does. Order of the Phoenix absolutely does.
The Half-Blood
Half-Blood Prince. I think the book, right?
I think so. Yeah, I
As the
think
book
so.
is, and then the Deathly Hallows. Yeah, I think so. Or is that chapter called Xenophilius Lovegood?
Ooh, no, I think it's the Tale of the Three Brothers.
Oh, okay.
Wait, it's one of those.
It's one of those.
Yeah,
Okay. But
so-
most of them, I think you could call this one The Sorcerer's Stone, because it's
I-
where they actually learn about it, and it's the title of the book.
Yes, I
You
agree.
could
I
call
absolutely
that
agree.
one.
Especially because the chapter
the
where Harry
Philosopher
retrieves it from the
is
mirror
that
is
goes
also
back.
not called the Sorcerer's Stone.
I know,
so
yeah.
It's not like an argument as to which chapter better embodies.
Oh, I know, because you could probably call that one The Sorcerer's Stone, too.
You absolutely could.
Yeah,
I
good
don't
call.
mind the man with two faces. I think
Yeah.
I think that's good. But
Yeah, that's good.
but I do think So I would say I think chapter art is kind of only okay for this one. But my rename would be Snape's Detour.
Okay,
Yeah,
all right.
yeah.
Well,
Or the Sorcerer's Stone.
Yeah.
I like both those.
There we
So
go.
there we go. So anyway, but looking forward ahead to next week's episode, which is going to be chapter 14, Norbert, the Norwegian Ridgeback. Which
Yes.
I can only tell you that as I'm holding my book in front of me and seeing how little of this book is left, I can't believe how late this chapter happens in the story.
Dude, this is like, when I was reading this to Luke, I could
Yeah,
not believe
well,
it's like, you get to a certain
15
point and it's like, okay,
17
now this
chapters
happens, then this happens,
in this
then this
book.
happens. It's like, there's like big chunky things. Like each chapter is like its own little story.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So looking forward to chapter 14. Before we close out, do you have a review for us?
I sure do, Ben. We have a review here from DCGXD. That's at least how it copied over.
Love it. Okay. Hello.
They said, the coziness is the best. I feel like I'm sitting down at a fireplace with my father reading Harry Potter. The Carlin brothers are not only experts on HP, but they go out of their way to explain more details that you've missed previously when you read the books. Just give it 1 minute and you'll be hooked.
Oh.
So thank you so much.
That's so cool. I
Yeah.
love it. Yeah, no, that's such a sweet review. Well,
It's very much the vibe we're going for.
That is absolutely. At one point in time, we literally debated on how to possibly
Yeah, how
incorporate
cool-
a fireplace into our visual set if you're
Yeah.
watching on YouTube or listening.
Which, by the
that's
way,
very-
thank you for watching on YouTube. I have been so impressed with those numbers. So if you are, if you want to throw us a subscriber thing, that would be amazing. Or just hit that bell.
Absolutely,
You know?
yeah, of course. Be sure to be the first in the know whenever a new episode
I
drops.
would love it, you guys, if we could put a silver play button on the set behind
my
us.
gosh,
Okay,
I
look, because we
know.
have an empty frame right over there behind Ben. I don't know if you can tell exactly what that is from your vantage point, but we could put the button in there.
We could put the button in there.
That's where we could put it.
The campaign for 100K.
There we go.
Yeah.
So just if you want to help us out, even maybe if you're just listening on audio and you're like, let me just go into YouTube real quick and I'll just do that and we'll see if we can get the button. That would be super fun.
Yes,
we're
it
still a ways off, but I think we can get there.
Yeah, it is its own YouTube channel, so
Yeah.
through the Griffin Door. If you want to go check it out, we would super appreciate it. But
Yeah.
otherwise, until next time. Bye.
Oh, whoa! Excuse me.
Sorry.
Jeez, man,
My
I
bad.
believe we end the episodes differently around here.
That's my bad. It's been a minute. Okay.
It's all right.
Otherwise,
Join us next time through the Griffin Door.
totally nailed it. Well done.
Adapted Mind Math.
So guys, what did you guys think about episodes, huh? Pretty good? I definitely liked it for myself. It's my favorite one out of the chapters that we have reacted to so far. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comment section down below. And I'll see you guys in the next chapter next week, which is chapter 14. Never the Norwegian Ridgeback. See you guys then.